Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining Inspirational Motivational Leadership Podcast. I'm Scott DiGiammarino. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one of the biggest mistakes that I personally made as a leader. It's something that actually changed my life in terms of not only leading others, but also leading myself. And what it was when I was at American Express, I went to Washington, D.C. from Boston in the early 90s. I was 29, 30 years old, and I thought I knew it all. Big mistake, right? And it was interesting that I started building an environment where people would rely on me. They would constantly knock at my door saying, "Hey, Deej, you got a sec, you got a sec." And what ended up happening was the lines kept getting longer and longer and longer, and I became what I call the shell answer man. I was just there to answer questions. And my assistant, Susan, would always yell at me saying, "You're late, you're running behind. Why are you answering all these questions for people?" And I was building an environment where I was a crutch, where people were reliant on me versus thinking for themselves. And, it made me feel good. It made me feel powerful. It made me feel smart. But the reality was I was doing more harm than good. So what happened was I decided to change things up. So as the lines got longer and people came to see me, what I basically said, I decided I was not going to answer the questions anymore. And what I was going to do was answer a question with a question. So Shelly came up to me and said, "Hey, Deej, you got a sec?" I'd say, "Sure." And they'd say, "Hey, listen, how would you handle this situation?" Before, I would actually jump right to it and give multiple options. Now I decided to change strategy. What ended up happening was I'd say, "Okay, Shelly, well, what do you think you should do? What options are there out there? What are the pros and cons of those options? What's your gut telling you to do?" And I would essentially have them come up with their own solution versus me providing the solution. And what happened over time is people realized that I wasn't going to answer the question for them anymore. Okay. What happened was we created a culture and an environment where people could think for themselves and people could make their own decisions, especially when it's alignment with the principles and values of the organization. They knew where to get answers. And it's interesting, at the end, as my tenure ticked on, people used to always tease me. And they'd say, DiGiammarino, he doesn't know anything. He knows who knows the answer, but he won't give you the answer himself, which is exactly what I wanted to do, right? And so the lines over time got shorter and shorter and shorter. And I was always on time for my next meeting. And so Susan, my assistant, would say, "Way to go, high five." But most importantly is we were building this culture and this environment where people felt empowered to make their own decisions, and they felt empowered to think through pros and cons and gut instincts, et cetera, to make the right call. Now, what I will share with you is what I told them wasn't always the right answer. I'll also share with you what the decision that they came up with wasn't always the right answer. But I will tell you that more times than not, directionally, it was sound, especially coming from them versus me. So anyway, just think about if you're a leader in an organization, if you're a professor, a teacher, a trainer, a coach, if you're a CEO, et cetera, and people are constantly calling you for your opinion on things, sometimes it's best not to actually give your opinion. And the reality is you are motivating and inspiring people because you're teaching them how to grow and how to think and how to think through challenge and solve problems themselves. Anyway, one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned. Hope this helps, and keep those questions coming. I really appreciate it. Have fun.